This is a post-mortem video of my Ludum Dare 39 entry Mecha Testing Ground. This is my first Ludum Dare entry and also the first game jam I took part in. The theme was running out of power, and I was pleased with this theme being chosen because of the simplicity of the overall design of the game. I made a score attack shooter because it is a very simple game idea that doesn't require too much work on the programming side, and with the theme being added into consideration, I added in a timer that after every 10 seconds, the movement speed of the mecha is reduced until the timer runs out and it's game over. This ended up being a standout feature and fun part of the game, as the player can try and get a higher score before the mecha runs out of power. As I was taking part for the first time, I decided to submit Mecha Testing Ground as a jam entry so I can have an extra day where I can check if there were any bugs that needed to be fixed and other improvements that can be made, as well as not feeling the pressure of the compo's shorter time limit. Mecha Testing Ground was made using Pico 8, a virtual machine that mimics the look and feel of an 8-bit era computer or games console. Pico 8 can export the game as a .p8.png file that can be uploaded to the Pico 8 forums, as well as a HTML plus JavaScript version that can be uploaded to a website such as itch.io. It is playable either through a web browser or by downloading the p8.png file and then loaded into Pico 8 itself with controller support. There is no downloadable executable without the need for Pico 8, unfortunately. Pico 8 uses Lua as its main programming language for writing the game's code, which turned out to be a huge plus because of the language's easy to understand syntax and writing very basic functions such as printing out text and drawing sprites to the screen with very few lines of code. Pico 8 has a very limited specification whereby the display is drawn at a small 128 by 128 pixel resolution with only 16 colours to use. Drawing sprites is therefore limited to being 8 by 8 pixels in size. The mecha sprite was doubled in size as I felt the original 8 by 8 didn't do it justice. This made the drawing of sprites to be very simple, as pixel art isn't a strong suit of mine, and keeping with the restrictions, this forced my creativity further. The enemy sprites are actually meant to be drones to make it feel like a testing ground, but I forgot to mention this in the entry page, the Pico 8 forum thread, and the itch.io page. I received a funny comment on the Ludum Dare site that said that they looked like jack-o'-lanterns, which they weren't wrong, and I liked that people had different ideas of what they were shooting at. Creating the sound effects was a breeze, and I only needed 3 sound effects: shooting, getting hit, and explosions. Both the sprites and sound effects were made using Pico 8's built-in editors, and is a plus as it is in one place, and I didn't need to use any external software for this. The only piece of audio that wasn't in the game was music. This is due to a lack of experience with Pico 8's music editor and would have been a big time commitment. There was originally going to be a health bar and a power bar which would have fitted with the theme further, but the drawing of the bars became an issue as they weren't getting drawn properly based on the values set, and were being drawn incorrectly. This is why there are heart sprites for health and a timer instead. I wanted to have the enemies move up and down while moving from the right side of the screen to the left, but this became problematic as the enemies moved and stopped towards the middle of the screen and then moved again. Plus, I didn't want the enemies to be covering up the heads-up display. I didn't want to overwhelm the player with too many enemies moving up and down. The problem I faced when making Mecha Testing Ground was the collision detection. Pico 8 does have one problem in that code for collision detection has to be written from scratch, and therefore adds time to development and testing. For some reason, the code I wrote to test any 2 sprites colliding with each other didn't seem to work, so I had to compromise by writing conditional statements for each of the sprites that collide. This worked with an offset of a few pixels added to have a similar feel to that of a bullet hell shooter, but it wasn't exactly accurate for a general shooter. This is why enemies are able to pass through the player at specific spots, such as through the legs, above the torso, etc., as well as the laser sprite hitting a smaller hitbox for the enemies. In conclusion, I had a great time making Mecha Testing Ground and taking part in Ludum Dare. I enjoyed writing pieces of code one by one, and testing the results is fun and rewarding. I'm glad people were having fun playing it just as I had fun creating it. Thank you for watching this post-mortem video on the making of Mecha Testing Ground, and I'll see you next time.